Namo Phat, good morning. Thank you for joining me for our daily practice check-in. Listen, listen, listen. This beautiful sound calls us back to our true home. The second mindfulness training. Aware of the suffering caused by exploitation, social injustice, stealing, and oppression, I vow to cultivate loving kindness and learn ways to work for the well-being of people, animals, plants, and minerals. I will practice generosity by sharing my time, energy, and material resources with those who are in real need. I'm determined not to steal and not to possess anything that should belong to others. I will respect the property of others, but I will prevent others from profiting from human suffering or the suffering of other species on earth. For our Dharma lesson today, we're reading the second half of Friendliness, the Practice, from Working with the Five Hindrances by Ajahn Thiradhammo. Generally, it's simpler and sometimes easier to practice friendliness to the painful sensations in parts of the body, as these manifest more tangibly in specific places. I say sometimes easier because some areas of the body may be so frozen in contraction that there is no obvious sensation to relate to. If one is aware of this, that frozenness or numbness may be observed and friendliness applied to it more proactively. Other sensations may be psychosomatic expressions of highly charged emotional pain, and thus we can be misled if we dwell too much on the physical level only. Some cross-referencing between physical sensations and emotional, mental responses is worthwhile. I've also found it useful to alternate between a more systematic, rational left brain approach supported by theory and right brain guided imagery, sound, or movement. For example, we know that friendliness can be beneficial for releasing tensions in the body, and so we can keep systematically relaxing into friendliness. However, sometimes this no longer has any effect. If we can then imagine friendliness as a warm golden light shining into those tensions, or breathe into them with friendliness, we may find this more effective. It may be that the self has caught on to our earlier technique and no longer cooperates, or we have moved into areas of subtlety which the rational brain cannot touch, that is, the non-conceptual area of experience. The skill in practice is to not merely stay in the head and magnanimously direct thoughts of well-being into painful experiences, but rather to melt wholeheartedly into them, to step out of our pompous, egoistic attitude of controlling or dismissing pain, and learn to humbly surrender into it. Most pain is actually self-contraction, the threatened self throwing up a wall of contracted defensiveness, which is also painful and contracted, thus generating further pain and contraction. Friendliness is like arranging a peace conference, providing a safe environment in which to open up the defenses to reveal that the real cause of the pain contraction is grasping an illusory self. Through the friendly study of this pain, we can learn a lot about the self and its defense strategies. However, we should never underestimate the cleverness of the self in trying to co-opt the practice for its own ends. Even though defensiveness is painful, the self does not want to give up this familiar habit, its primal survival strategy. Thus, we should proceed gently in the true spirit of friendliness, gradually winning a self's confidence and trust. Yes, this does feel good, but without being too idealistic, I'm going to conquer my ill will with friendliness. In this way, we cultivate friendliness from the base of a trusting relationship, rather than from a mercenary relationship of using friendliness to get what we want. So rather than initially launching into friendliness towards all our unpleasant experiences, we can begin with a gentle receptiveness or non-judgmental openness. Yes, this is what is. Next, we could try to be more hospitable and accommodating. Yes, you are also part of my experience. Then we may try different modes of friendliness. Hello, please come in and take a seat. Is there anything I can do for you? Eventually, we can proceed to cultivating a deepening friendship with the unpleasant. How are you feeling? Have you got anything to tell me, comment on, or advise? Ultimately, friendliness can be developed into an unconditioned, unbounded receptiveness. The result of this approach is that the unpleasant is disarmed, and we begin to trust the process more. At the same time, the medicine of friendliness heals the wounds of old pain traumas, so that what we define as unpleasant can be unconditionally received with mindfulness and wisdom. Self lets down its guard, possibly to such a degree that it is out of a job and no longer necessary for defense. May all beings be well. May all beings be happy. May all beings be peaceful. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Thank you for joining me this morning.